want to thank everybody who's been with me, my Xbox clan.
When Kobe's going back to play Madison Square Garden, and he's like, hey, hook me up with dinner with Heath Ledger.
Like Russell Westbrook, that was a great feat the other day. I couldn't even tweet it out.
It's Coach Frank Vogel here, full of enthusiasm and positive energy.
Well, first of all, you don't smoke peyote.
And there was a couple games where I was at a hookah lounge. That's the truth. I wasn't smoking hookah, but I was there.
There was a time when the Israelites were wandering in the desert and all of a sudden bread came down from heaven. That's kind of what today feels like to have KCP join.
Welcome back to Bulls vs. Blazers. You can find us, as always, on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere else you get podcasts, YouTube. Make sure you also subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/BullsVBlazers. Shout out to the family. I am Sean Highkin. With me, as always, Eric Gundersen.
What up?
So I had a good time watching the Jazz and the Grizzlies tonight, Eric, but in the back of my mind, I just could not help but think it is a disaster for the league that Steph Curry is not in the playoffs, because anything else, like people only want to see the players that they've heard of.
Right. I mean, John Morant, 47 points tonight. They lost and also Donovan Mitchell makes his dramatic return to the floor for
after
the Jazz.
Whatever the hell happened with the last game where they thought he was going to play and then they decided not to, and then he said that like his people said that it was
that he was fine to play and that he thought he was going to play, and that the team made the decision and that the team didn't know, and like everyone went, the Athletic story put it in great context, like the entire team went to their pregame nap thinking that Donovan Mitchell was going to play, and they woke up from their pregame nap for hearing that he wasn't going to play. So, after having heard all of that, it's no wonder that they lost game one. Even without Mitchell, maybe if they had known they weren't going to have him, maybe that game goes a different way. I mean, obviously that's not, I want to respect the Grizzlies. I'm so happy that they're here. I'm so happy that they're all getting opportunities.
This is way more fun to me than the Warriors Jazz series would have been.
Oh, totally way more fun. I mean, there's just so many more guys that can do things for the Grizzlies. And also too, foul trouble really killed them tonight. The early foul trouble with Brooks and Valanciunas both getting up into the high foul numbers in the first half, and then both picked up their fourth in the third quarter. Like it was all bad, and and even with that, they still made it a close game. So I mean, this series is completely different than I think anybody anticipated. I think I had it going like 5, but but this could go 7. I mean. The odds are very high that we're looking at a 2-2 series coming back to Salt Lake City for game 5. And then it's a 3-game series at that point. And nobody expected this. And the Jazz, I don't think expected this at all. The only people I think that expected the Grizzlies to make it a fight were Grizzlies fans. And
the Grizzlies themselves. I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, this team is so young that they just don't know enough to be afraid of any of this stuff. And honestly, it felt for most of the game like the Jazz control of the Grizzlies made that huge run in the third quarter to cut it to 3 at one point. Mm-hmm. But even then, the Jazz kept kind of had the counter punch. But even then, the Grizzlies only lost by 12, and now they're going back to Memphis. I still feel like this is kind of maybe still going to be a real series, and maybe Memphis could win it. I'm not completely writing that off.
No, I'm not either. Why should we write it off? I mean, they played, I will say, the Jazz shot the lights out from 3 tonight. They got a lot of good looks that they didn't make in game 1.
Gobert was also a lot better tonight than he was in game 1.
Facts. He scored. I think that is the big thing with Gobert. I think he only had 11 points in game 1. He had 21 tonight. And that helps open up those 3-point shots when Gobert's getting easy points at the rim. But so that is, but I don't think there's any reason for us to write off, because Jaren Jackson Jr., where the fuck where he hasn't been anywhere in this series. He looks totally lost, and maybe going back to Memphis, being at home, playing in front of the home crowd, those are the types of things that tend to help guys that might be struggling. And I could totally see Jaren Jackson finally making some shots against the Jazz in the next couple of games, and help them win at least one of those 2 games back in Memphis. And the Grindhouse is going to be rocking. Also, the history with Mike Conley going back to Memphis. I mean, there's so many more things happening in this series than there would have been in a Golden State Utah series with all the different storylines. Obviously, John, Mike Conley in Memphis. I mean, Jaren Jackson even, I think, played with Mike Conley for a minute. So there's a lot of great things there. And I just hope that the Grizzlies stay out of foul trouble. Cause I think if their main guys can stay out of foul trouble and they don't have to give such big minutes to DeAnthony Melton and guys like that, like they can hang in this series and they could win. I think they really could win it at this point, as long as they stay out of foul trouble. But given, Brooks's history with foul trouble, it's going to be hard.
So there's something I've been thinking about with these playoffs that I've really been, I think the thing I've most been enjoying about it. I mean, if you look at like the young up and coming stars in the league, we kind of know about Luka because he did it in the bubble last year. But so far in the playoffs, we're seeing Ja has never been here before. This is his first ever playoff games. He's been incredible both games. This is like his big coming out party. Trae Young, 3rd year in the league, never been to the playoffs before, playing at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. He balls out. And I mean, I know they lost tonight, but he's having a big coming out party.
He's
Devin
the villain.
Booker.
He's the villain.
He is the villain.
He's the villain of New York City. I mean, what better way to come out? Like, that's so great. And then, yes, Devin Booker. Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, Devin Booker, he was great in the bubble, but they didn't end up even making the playoffs. And now he's been awesome in the, first 2 games against the Lakers. Like, it feels like now we're kind of starting to see all of like the next generation of stars who maybe haven't been here before. We're starting to see that all of them are kind of like, built for the moment and all of that kind of stuff. And that's been pretty cool to watch to me.
Yeah, no, yeah. I've been, like I said, I after the Saturday night pod, or the Sunday night, I'm eating a lot of Hawk this week because like I was driving the Trey Slander bus and like
Trey is that dude.
Unfortunately, yeah, exactly.
You hate to see it, but
he is absolutely that dude. That is an absolute fact. And Trey, I mean, the Knicks Hawks. I mean, that I don't like. I didn't think it was going to be this much fun. Like it's so much fun. Like it's the best East series hands down. Trey being a villain is great, and also just like what a story, dude, to have the Knicks come back from the way they did in this game. They were down bad. Randall looked lost early, and then D Rose plays like the whole second half. Taj Gibson has a huge dunk to kind of seal the game at the end. The hometown kid, Obi Toppin, New Yorker as well, with a big dunk and a 3-pointer.
Your boy, draft Twitter nemesis, Obi Toppin.
That's right. Obi and RJ, both my team anti-draft Twitter. And wow. I mean, Obi, it was great. And the shot of Obi Toppin's mom in the Madison Square Garden when she's like crying wearing his college jersey was like so cool. And like more of that, more of those crowd moments, please. NBA, less of the NBA fans, excuse me. I'm just gonna put that out there. More of that, less of the bullshit that we saw tonight, whether it was in New York spitting on Trae Young, whether it was in Philly, the people dumping popcorn on Russell Westbrook, who was injured. And then also apparently there were reports that fans had to be escorted from the Jazz game tonight because they were heckling Ja Morant's family too much. So
are you telling me that fans in Utah were acted inappropriately towards a player or their family? Are you like this is insane? Like, this is crazy to me. I've never heard of this before.
I mean, it's literally the most common thing among NBA players. I mean, like literally, all the smoke guys literally have like entire sections of their podcast dedicated to all the times that they've been, mother effed and racial slurred in Utah. So
Vernon Maxwell has like built an entire brand on his Twitter account around just talking about how racist Utah fans are.
Yeah. Well, and then Kyrie also too, like, I don't
know. Okay. I'm going to shut that down. We're on the free pod, not the family. We're not going to touch the Kyrie thing. That's for the family. If we ever discuss that, it's for the family.
Okay, fine. I mean, whatever. I mean, okay. He started a dialogue.
He started a dialogue. It's not either of our place as both white guys and guys who are not from Boston
and not from the Northeast,
and not from the Northeast, and like anytime Kyrie says something, like it creates the discourse that's never like good for any like. We're not gonna touch that one.
Okay, but the dialogue has been started though. I think Kyrie's point is important to note in the conversation that we're having right now about fans and players. And it is what Kyrie said is relevant.
Did you see the video today by that like radio guy from Boston?
Yes, I did. And I'm okay, of course. And listen, Boston fans are going to be whiny about it. And of course they are. Like, but they also didn't really give up that much in the trade. I mean, they gave up like nothing. They gave up the pick that became Colin Sexton, Jay Crowder, a broken Isaiah Thomas. Like they didn't give I mean, come on. Like you guys the
Isaiah thing, in fairness, like I understand that's a whole like
I know, but that they knew they were giving up damaged goods,
right?
And they did it after he gave them their all in the fucking playoffs, bro. Like spare me the Boston crybaby story about Kyrie leaving. They got him for effectively, they got him at a bargain basement price, and then he left. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like it's not a big travesty or a tragedy at all. Is I guess what I will say about the Kyrie Boston situation. But back to the point that I was making in bringing in Kyrie. I mean, fans have been wilding, bro, and I think people don't know how to act because we haven't been outside people haven't been outside in a year or a year and 15 months basically. And I mean, obviously there's some trial and error going on, but people need to fucking chill out, man. Like root for your team, but you don't have to like the shit we saw in Denver too. Like all these fans calling players' names on the Blazers and like all this shit towards Carmelo. And also like from what I've heard from
I'm not mad at the Melo stuff.
The way that the Nuggets are kind of like egging them on though, like I heard that in the arena they would show Melo during timeouts to kind of gin up the boos, and then they would cut to Jokic immediately after to kind of gin up the cheers.
Oh, so you mean like when you're in Cleveland, have you ever been to a Cavs game?
I've never actually been to Quicken, no.
So they did this thing, and this is like the most amateur unserious franchise, like never been there before type of thing that the Cavaliers do in the NBA Finals. Not in a random like game in February where you need to get the fans to get up. They will put when a Warriors play, because I covered the first two Cavs Warriors finals in Cleveland.
Oh no, I think I know where you're going with this, but please keep the story going for the listeners that don't know where you're going with this. I think I know where you're going with
when
this.
A Warriors player is shooting a free throw, they would put a picture of either a Steelers logo or Ben Roethlisberger.
That's right.
Or a Michigan logo.
That's
or
right.
The Canadian rock band Nickelback.
Oh
just to encourage people to boo. Again, in the finals when like fans shouldn't need to like be encouraged to
boo the other team when they're shooting free throws.
So you're telling me that the Denver did that with Melo?
That I was told that they did that during.
See,
like,
I'm not even really mad at that,
during dead balls. I'm just saying, like, I just feel like there's been a lot of just, and the fans. I'm happy that they're there. They're a major character of professional sports, and I'm glad that they're back, and I'm glad that they're going to be back tomorrow, and I'm excited to be in the building tomorrow. But there have been some outlier fans that have that suck. And they've gotten our attention, and it should be said, social media makes it feel like these people are the majority of the fans that are at the games. That's not the case, and I don't want to act like that's the case. But it did make me feel a little shitty to see people throw, especially the popcorn on Westbrook.
Yeah, the popcorn thing, that was like one of the worst things I was honestly personally really annoyed with that guy because I wrote a story tonight for Bleacher Report that I'd been working on for a few days where I was asking different players on these Zooms about how excited they were to have fans back and how great the impact is. And then I this is, the game is the game, but like I had to rewrite like half that story because of the Russ thing and talk about kind of the downsides of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
everyone, and also like the Trey video is going viral now too, where people are seeing someone in like the second row, sitting courtside at MSG just spit on Trey. Like,
This is, by the way, what is the thing that the NBA wants to avoid the most? Another Malice at the Palace. How did that start? It started with a fan pouring a beer on Ron Artest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like LeBron tweeted about this.
If the shoe was on the other foot, he's absolutely right. If the shoe was on the other, well, and also it's like he's like, we need to know who that fan is, and they need to be kicked out forever. Because if the shoe was on the other foot and a player did something to a fan, their cameras would be out. They'd probably get fined, like or suspended. So it's like, it needs to get someone needs to do some checking, and I think also too, it's like, and it's. I don't know.
The problem is we know how Adam Silver feels about members of the NBA family, being harassed by people at arenas, and he feels like maybe they shouldn't have put themselves in that position sometimes. That has been a thing that he has said about
certain
front office executives.
Front office executives that won NBA championships and then were harassed by the police while they were celebrating.
We'll see how the NBA responds to this. It's going to be interesting. I saw that the Sixers Wells Fargo Center put out a statement basically just saying that like they won't tolerate this behavior. This was a big night this is like a close cousin of injury Twitter, which I've talked about before. We've talked about where some player like twists his ankle and is like, ban injuries. This is like this. I will personally donate my ankle to whoever. Like that's
our least favorite. One of our least favorite tropes.
This is like whenever something like this happens, or like when fans in Toronto were like cheering when Kevin Durant tore his Achilles or whatever. Like it becomes this whole thing where people on Twitter are like, this is disgusting. There is no place for this in sports. This is beneath the dignity. And I mean, yes, this stuff is terrible, but it's like everybody's just kind of like rushing over themselves to be the first person to say there is no place for this. Because if you don't say that there's no place for this, people are going to assume that you think there's a place for this.
Right, of course. It's the where is Ja? It's the where is Ja moment where everyone feels like they need to be Ja Rule and comment on the injustice that has happened.
You know what it actually is? It's like, okay, so the last year or 12 or 15 months or whatever of COVID, a whole lot of people have put like the mask emoji in their Twitter display name next to their name, just so you know, just so you're aware that they were pro mask,
the mask AV. Also,
yeah,
that was a big thing, and I'm like,
yeah, it was.
guys, no.
Like it's cool. People know that you probably are like okay with wearing a mask. You don't have to tweet that there's no place for a fan throwing. Like I didn't see anybody defending the fan doing that because like there's not really any way to defend it. So you don't really need to be the one saying this is just intolerable.
Yeah, there was no like what like this guy paid for his seat.
Yeah, there was
nobody saying that shit. And so like, yeah, it is kind of funny how we all like do. I mean, we rightfully it was shitty, but also there is a lot of like proving your bona fides as
one of the good guys,
as one of the good guys, a person who cares about other people. I mean, what else? Let's see, what else happened? I mean, the game of Washington Philly. I mean, who gives a shit?
I didn't even watch it.
Ben Simmons had a big game. That's all.
That series is over.
Yeah, they're going to
the top two East series are both over. I don't really want to do any analysis of those. And I think honestly, after the game 2 of the Miami-Milwaukee series, I think that one's probably over too.
Yeah, they don't have it this year. The Heat don't have it. I mean, they're trying to recreate the magic of Jay Crowder with Trevor Ariza, which he's been fine, but Jimmy has had 2 really bad games to start the series.
Crowder's been awesome for Phoenix, by the way.
He has been, and they miss him. But back to Milwaukee for a second. My guy PJ Tucker, who was one of the big reasons why I've been driving the Milwaukee in the East bandwagon, because I think he allows them to play small but not give up rebounds, and he can also kind of shoot that corner 3. I think he adds another dimension obviously for this matchup against Jimmy, because Jimmy can't just bully him.
You know what the Heat are doing though? I think the Heat like they're going to lose this series, and then they're going to focus their attention on the upcoming free agency of Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I mean Dallas is not that far from Miami, and I think maybe some Heat officials might be making their way to Dallas for Game 3 because, I mean, dude, that series
You hate to see it so much,
dude. I mean, I know we talked about Luka, and yes, you're totally right that last year he was in the bubble and he was on the scene.
Yeah,
he is on a GOAT path.
Yep.
He is truthfully on a GOAT path. Like, and it was so funny for me whenever last summer before the season before the season started, everyone was talking about Zion this, Zion that. I was like, when are we going to talk about Luka? And like finally now we're here. Like everyone.
Well, yeah, wow, yeah, right. You're totally right, Eric. Nobody's ever talked about Luka. People weren't trying to sell Luka coin to MVP bettors before the.
No, you're right. But you
just did the I was told Steph Curry wasn't a good shooter.
No, but there is a real Luka Zion debate with people, at least like especially with casuals. And I think that there's I think the casual take is that Zion, like until this series, obviously, I don't think it's up for debate anymore. But I do think it was like who would you rather start your franchise with, Zion or Luka conversation. I don't feel like that's a conversation anymore. And I don't think it should be for any young player, really.
I believe that before the pandemic, I'll have to go back and look at this, but I believe before COVID, BR did like a staff roundtable that was that very question of who would you rather start a franchise with, Zion or Luka? And I distinctly remember saying, my head knows it's Luka, my heart wants it to be Zion because they're going to have to like create new rules for how to officiate Zion, and that's the kind of player that it's like a Shaq type of thing. But yeah, Luka is just like Luka's that dude. Luka is as good as like people said he was going to be, and the Clippers are as unserious as some people said they would be.
I know. I mean, it's also, bro, like, I think there's really a disconnect with Rondo. I don't feel the Rondo fingerprints. You know what I mean?
He's getting benched for Reggie Jackson and Patrick Beverley.
Yeah. And
Ty Lue does not believe in playoff Rondo, and that's going to come back and hurt them.
I know. I mean, I feel like they have no choice but to go to more Rondo in Game 3 because, I mean, you traded for him for what? You're going to have him on the bench in the biggest game of the season when he's one of your most accomplished players. Like,
they also paid Luke Kennard a ton of money, and they need more shooting, and he hasn't.
He played 0 minutes last night. He played legitimately 0 minutes. They got rid of Landry Shamet to bring him in, and Shamet is a real part of the Nets. And is shooting above 40% from three. And yeah, I mean, Kennard, well, and the problem with Kennard though, is like, he's not a really, the problem that people have said with him is his defense. And obviously, but at the same time, like what is the fucking Clippers defense against Luka doing at all? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
so you might as well get someone in there who can shoot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see that. And I mean, dude, my guy, Tim Hardaway Jr., dude, 28 last night. Again, dude, like I was saying, like he doesn't know that people don't think he's as good as Kawhi and PG, man. Like, I really do. And it's, they could sweep this thing. Like,
I think that's happening. I think once they won last night, I think it's going to be a sweep now. Especially you're going back to Dallas, and Dallas is going to be one of the teams that I don't know exactly what the capacity was at Staples, but Dallas announced that they're going to have their arena at near full capacity. So I think it's kind of a wrap.
Yeah. Well, did you see T. Lue's like reverse logic? It's up there with wins and lessons as one of his great, just like nonsensical quotes. But he said that like, we'll have to see if they if they can keep up that hot shooting when they go back home.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead. That's why I love that guy, because especially like after game one, I saw Ivica Zubac said that like, yeah, we're gonna live with Luka getting that. I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead. Good luck. See how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a little bit not like that different from what like Portland was saying after game one was like, oh, well, we'll let Jokic get 40 and that'll be okay. And then he gets like the same numbers that he got in the last game, but they win this time. In game 2.
Did you see Paul George say that the Clippers aren't concerned after last night?
Yeah, no, he said there's no level of concern. I was like, are you kidding me, bro? You're down 0-2. There should be some level of concern. At the very least, there should be a little bit of concern.
Maybe a little bit.
just a tiny bit of concern. No, someone said, so I think I saw it was at Snotty Drippin tweeted that PG was a supervisor at Chernobyl. So that's exactly the vibe that PG gives off is project manager at Chernobyl, and it's bad, dude. I mean, this is it. I would feel bad almost if they didn't, if they and the NBA hadn't just totally forced the Clippers-Lakers rivalry onto us. Like, we know that they're both in LA. They share the same building. They both had a big offseason. They both but rivalries are not born that way. Rivalries don't happen when you create a marketing campaign and you try to force it on the regular season schedule. Rivalries only happen when teams face each other in the playoffs. And they were like trying to will it into existence with all those national television Lakers Clippers games. And I don't blame them for putting them on the TV because those are good games. But it's
the Battle of Los Angeles.
See, that's the type of shit I'm talking about.
Between the team that is like the most decorated franchise in NBA history and the team that nobody's ever given a shit about in the city.
Yeah, it's like it was this complete fabrication, like what will win over LA. Like, it was a bigger deal outside of LA than it was actually in LA. And I just don't. Yeah, it is kind of sad because like a lot of these guys are good, and it sucks to see Kawhi. It kind of sucks to see Kawhi just like burn 2 years of his prime. But at the same time, like they chose this. They made their bed. Like and that's what also makes this thing about the Mavericks so funny, because they went out of their way to play against the Mavericks. And like they purposely avoided playing against Dame, which would have been the matchup.
I don't think they were trying to avoid Dame. I think
they've Galaxy brained themselves into doing that. I know they were trying to avoid LeBron. But
that was what they were really trying to do. They were trying to make it so that if they were to play the Clippers, they wouldn't have to until the conference finals. They wanted to just stay off the clip. That was the entire motivation for what they were doing.
But again, you have to get there fucking first. And it's like that. It's totally like
this is exactly like classic Clippers frontrunner stuff where they just, this was the exact same. I went back and looked at this.
Okay, yeah. And then I have another story that this reminds me of as well from my sports fandom that is totally not related to the NBA, but it brings me back this story that I want to tell.
Go with that first.
Okay, well, I believe it was 2009, and it was the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, yeah.
And Venezuela was in the semifinals of the World Baseball.
That's your squad.
That's my squad. I'm Venezuelan. My mom is Venezuelan. We're very stoked. Venezuela had, at the time, Felix Hernandez, who at the time in 2009 was like the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
And the manager decided to go with another pitcher. I think his last name was Silva. I don't even remember his first name. But he went with Silva in the semifinals with the logic being that we were going to save Felix for the final. And it's like, guys, you have to get to the final to win it. And it's like, that's the same thing about this Clippers shit. It's like, why don't you worry about the Lakers when you fucking get there instead of skipping steps? And that's what they did. They skipped steps.
That's what the Clippers have done this entire time, though. The skipping, the skipping steps. They've been all about the, like, they never they never like practice. They let Kawhi and Paul George dictate the practice times. None of their guys ever. This is like last year. None of their guys ever played together in the regular season, and then they just thought, "Oh, well, we're so talented that we'll be able to just kind of make it work in the playoffs." And then they blew that 3-1 lead to Denver. This year, they kind of, Doc Rivers leaves. I mean, maybe it was just like on both sides. It was like time for a change. I understand that, but so like maybe that's that was the case there. But, going like, Paul George goes on, the All the Smoke podcast and throws Doc under the bus and says that it's all Doc. Like the two things that Clippers fans went to were it was all Doc and it was all Montrezl Harrell. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Neither of those guys are there anymore. And they're having the exact same issues that they still had back then.
Also, Montrez is getting DMPs for the Lakers. Could not give a shit. Like I love, like his tweets are just like, "Oh, I'm just having a good time over here." Like,
dude, he got the bag.
Dude, Montrez is living. Dude, Montrez is living the good life. He doesn't have to play. He can just watch. He can just be like,
Nobody's gonna be mad at him for quote unquote stealing money, because if the Lakers lose, it's not gonna be because of Montrez. It's gonna be because LeBron and Anthony Davis weren't healthy. Nobody's gonna like. He got the bag, and he doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, and also like he's also not the new guy. Like even if things go wrong, people are gonna blame Drummond more than they're gonna blame.
Oh, that's the whole thing. I mean, shout out to my man Sopan Deb, the no hat boy. It's been kind of a rough playoffs for him so far.
For the Drummond Hall of Fame agenda, I know. Which I mean, shout out to him. You know, I mean Drummond. In Drummond's defense, he played very well last night. He played very well against the Suns, I thought, and obviously, you know, he has his limitations, and I mean, I do want to talk about the Suns series a little bit because it's just depressing.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, it's just depressing watching Chris Paul, bro.
Yeah,
like he can't even he can barely dribble with his right hand, and he's not shooting any shots outside of like 10 feet. Like it sucks. He can't shoot the ball, like because it's his right shoulder that's messed up, and he said he heard a crack or a pop when he fell, and he's 36 years old, and it's going to be a real, I just don't imagine it getting better between now and the rest of the series. And I loved what Cameron Payne did last night, but when the game was tight, you could just feel the absence of Chris Paul in those last 3 minutes of the game, where you know that Chris Paul, if he was right, would be hunting down ISOs, getting to that free throw line extended area, and hitting those mid-range jumpers. And it felt like they were lost without it.
It's pretty, reminiscent of the 2018 Rockets team, where they're playing the defending champions in a playoff series. They absolutely were good enough to beat them, and then Chris Paul just wasn't healthy.
I know, and it's like and really, it also is a little reminiscent of another Lakers series to me, in the sense with a great player being down, of the second round series that they had with Kobe against the Rockets, when like it was like Aaron Brooks and Ron Artest, like Yao was hurt.
This was the series after. This was the series where Yao had like the foot injury that ended his career, right?
Yeah, yes, 09. So the Rockets beat the Blazers, and I forget who the Lakers. I think the Lakers beat the Thunder, and then they played each other.
No. The Thunder that was the next year. The Lakers beat.
Might have been the Thunder, man.
No, it wasn't the Thunder, because 09 was the year that the Thunder were in the lottery and drafted Harden.
Okay,
they didn't make the playoffs until the next year. The next year they lost in the first round to the Lakers. Okay. Well,
regardless, it reminds me a little bit of that Rockets-Lakers series, in that I think the Suns are still good enough, even with Chris Paul being compromised the way that he is. I mean, Crowder really hasn't shot the ball that well yet in the series. And I think and Cam Johnson finally started to hit some shots at the end of game 2, but he still needs to hit more shots. And
they beat Utah in the first round that year, by the way.
Okay, they beat Utah. Well, I just think the Suns are still in this, but I can't in good conscience stick with my Suns in 7 pick anymore. Just looking at the series, like, I mean, Chris Paul is he's just not the same. But I still do believe in these Suns, especially at the pace that they play at, like, and just how much they fight and how young they are. They still are going to present some problems for the Lakers. But the Lakers, to their credit, they play amazing defense. They really never give up. And and Anthony Davis's shots were going down last night. On top of that, he had his 3 going. He had some of those mid-rangers going, and then
did you know, Eric? I don't know if you knew this. I don't know if you heard about this. Anthony Davis stayed after practice to get up more shots.
Oh, he did not even smile.
He didn't smile or crack a joke.
Not a single one. There was no humor to be had.
My mind was just blown when I read that.
Oh my gosh.
I saw that. That is just like, I've never heard of that before.
No, I've never heard of a player getting mad, working on his game after a bad game. A little bit harder than he was before.
How are you feeling about Blazers Nuggets?
I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. I mean, they're showing a little montage here on Inside the NBA because I have it on in the background of game 2 was a great response by the Nuggets. They really got into Portland defensively. I think Portland didn't really adjust very well because looking back at, game 1 film, Portland really could do whatever the fuck they wanted on offense. Like there was really no pressure on the dribble. And that changed a little bit more in game 2, where it seemed like everyone was kind of getting into the dribble. And obviously the Aaron Gordon thing happened in the second half. I think the Blazers, though, Dame, I think it's still a good thing that Dame is being single covered. Worst comes, Dame only had 10 points. I still think it's a good thing for them to have Dame single coverage. And, this is where Nurk can kind of work his magic as the dribble handoff wizard. Get Nurk at the top of key, backdoor cuts with Dame, have CJ run the offense, get a little bit more of that Norm Nurk action. And another thing too is Portland's ball reversal in game 2 was very slow. They were making better secondary passes in game 2 or in game 1, where they were making an extra pass to a shooter in the corner or making a quick first pass to get a rotation. And sometimes that first pass just wasn't even there. And Dame obviously had a great game and, you wanted to keep the hot hand, but there were a couple of times there where both him and I think CJ too, but, could have made that initial pass to get the defense to rotate a little bit sooner. And then I think that would kind of get that rotation going to get a little bit more downhill and then hopefully, get more of those 3-point looks. And also just to be a little bit more crisp because they had 20 turnovers and they shot 20 fewer shots than they did in game 1. And that I think is that was the game for me. Obviously the defense was terrible, but if Portland can not have so many turnovers and wasted possessions, that gives them more opportunity to get their defense set and not have to, deal with Jokic making decisions in transition and throwing lobs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the adjustment is because Denver made this is what these great playoff series do. Denver made their adjustment by putting Aaron Gordon on him. I'll bet the Blazers are going to, have CJ on ball a little bit more to let Dame spot up a little bit. Maybe that might be the adjustment they make. And then Denver's going to have to find a counter. That's how these series are going to go. I will say though, I have a good idea of how this series is going to go because the arguably the posting icon of all time.
I mean, we pay homage to him every episode in in the intro.
Absolutely. I mean, in the intro, you see that one of the quotes that we have, one of the sound bites that we have is Magic Johnson when he announced he was stepping down from the Lakers as president of basketball operations. One of his reasons was because he wants to just be able to tweet about players from other teams. Mm-hmm. And tonight, on his official Twitter account, he tweeted, "The Trailblazers," one word with an apostrophe, "the Trailblazer apostrophe S. The Trailblazers backcourt, led by Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, will be the difference in their series versus the Nuggets."
I have to say I agree.
Magic has blessed them.
Magic has blessed them. Blazers in 5. Write it down. Mark it down.
Confirmed.
Send it in. Even though the sweep, RIP, the ticket has been lit on fire.
Did Eric's gambling corner actually bet on the sweep?
I bet $10 on it. I wasn't betting life-changing money.
Do you have any more tickets on that series?
No. I think I have Portland to win the series straight up. And then I'm feeling terrible because I bet on the Suns to win their series, and that's not going to happen.
Well, you didn't know that Chris Paul was going to only be playing with one shoulder after the first game.
No, I did not. But I should have had a feeling about Chris Paul because this shit, unfortunately, always fucking happens to him. I mean, he just has the worst luck with these injuries in the playoffs. It seems like.
How's Eric's gambling corner doing with the playoffs so far?
We were doing good, and then the Grizzlies didn't cover tonight, so that was a brutal one. So
they came close with the line was 8.5, right?
It was. I got it at 9, and
they lost by 11.
Yeah, so it was a tough one. But we'll bounce back. We'll
get back in the lab.
Yeah, we'll get back in the lab. Start cooking up some parlays. I mean, the Dallas series has been really good to me. I've done really well there. Betting against the Clippers, But yeah, the Grizzlies let me down tonight after they delivered for me in game one, though. That was my favorite bet of the whole first two games of each series was that Memphis game one bet. Just because they were like plus 340 or whatever, or plus 320, I think, when I bet them. And it was just like so much fun watching Brooks and Morant. And Morant, I mean, so much fun. I can't say enough about watching Ja. Like his floater.
He's my favorite player in the league.
His floater is awesome. Like it's something, and it's a shot that I don't feel like I've ever seen before, in the way that he elevates so high on the floater, and he can get to it. It's like it's his go-to shot. He gets anytime, like in game one, and then also tonight. There were a couple times where he missed it, obviously, but in game one, he was just breaking Gobert and Favors down and getting to that floater, and it's like he has figured out how to score on the elite rim, like two of the best rim protectors in the league. Like when you're going against Favors and Gobert, like that's as good as it gets when you're going up against dudes at the rim. And he has totally figured them out.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, that obviously tonight, in the first half, he tries to dunk on Rudy, gets stuffed. I love that he tried it because he's just not afraid of him.
And he came back. He came back with a two-hander in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, he will. I mean, he's got a lot of Westbrook in his game that that's something that I see, obviously. But he's got so much more control, though. He's in so much more control than Westbrook. It's like he's like Westbrook, but everything is in slow motion.
The only uncool thing that Ja's ever done was walked it back when he wanted to have "fuck 12" as his jersey slogan, and then he had to apologize. The only time
you know what, man, he has to play the game. I'm not going to hold that one against him. So his reps came, and he had to play the game. What are you going to do? He is John Morant, and he is there's going to be, but anyway, I'm trying to think of anything else in these playoffs that I want to talk about. It just sucks watching the Celtics. That series is depressing.
Yeah, I might even just check out on the rest of that series.
Yeah, I'm probably going to check. I mean, I'm going to watch a little bit of Milwaukee, Miami tomorrow, but I mean, we're going to be at the game tomorrow.
We're going to both be at the game, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
this will be our first in-person playoff game since the Western Conference Finals in 2019.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I wrote about this. This was basically my main point.
In your newsletter at blazerbanter.substack.com, which is free.
But my main point was this is also Nurkic's first playoff game since 2018.
In front of fans.
I mean, obviously, yes, he was in the bubble last year, but I mean, he also
the bubble was fake.
The bubble was fake. And also, that when he first came here, the fans, I think, really put a battery in his back and really got him charged up. And I think obviously Dame was, the leading factor in getting Nurk to believe in himself and be a better player. But I think the fans and the fan support and the fan love and the fact that there was a really truly outpouring of support as soon as he arrived in Portland is something that means a lot to him. And after 2018, after getting swept, then he has the leg break, then they have the bubble, and it's just this is 3 years in the making for Nurk tomorrow. And the fact that it is against Denver also is just pretty poetic. And so I'm excited. I'm very excited for tomorrow. Just mostly for Nurk more than anything.
You know what's wild, speaking of Nurk? Uh-huh. I know that single game plus minus is kind of useless, but in game 2, Nurk was a +0 and was the only Blazers rotate, not counting the garbage time guys, the only Blazers rotation player who wasn't a negative by double digits. He was a plus. They played the Nuggets even when he was on the court, and they lost that game by 15 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah, well, I think something that I also alluded to in the newsletter, and I think this is one I'm having a little trouble with, and this is why I'm not a basketball coach. But it's the Cantor question, and that is he obviously has his limitations, but on the other hand, he also just hasn't done what he does. Like he's not even doing Enes Kanter things. And so if he can, if Stotts goes to him, which I think he will, just judging by Stotts' history of trusting veterans and especially trusting guys that have gotten him through a regular season like Kanter has, and Kanter's been reliable, Kanter's been consistent.
Kanter was also so good against Denver in 2019 in that series.
Right. And I think, but he has a completely different role this time around. And I do think that Stotts just has to be aware if Kanter's not getting boards, if he's not getting second chances, if he's not scoring when he gets the ball, that's why he's on the court. And if he's not doing those things well, then I do think Portland really has to think about Nasir Little, going in there at the 4 and like or going with Rondé, Hollis Jefferson, which, I see why Stotts isn't doing that. Like these are all bad. These are all like not that desirable options. Like Little is strong.
I think Nasir is the way to go.
I mean, I think he's the best player of the two. Like, I think he's the most complete player. I think you need a guy that can go out there and I think can space the floor and also just defend. And I would not ask him. He's not going to be doing a whole lot. And Rondé is not going to space the floor. They're just going to leave him. And he's a good passer and he's a good ball handler, but he's not a very good scorer. So at the rim. So it's just like, you're kind of in between the rock and a hard place if you go without Kanter. But I also can see Kanter playing much better in game 3, like it's not out of his power to have a better game, because he hasn't had a really good game yet. Like game 1, the bench was all Simons and all Melo, really, with the production. And Kanter has 9 rebounds and he averages a double-double. Like he has 9 rebounds in 2 games. He's basically been cut in half. So I think he's going to play better, and I think Stotts is going to go with him, but I think Stotts has to be he's got to have a quick trigger with Kanter, or a quick hook, because it's just, I don't know. I like Kanter. I will say I like Kanter against as a spell for Jokic or for Nurkic. Like, it's not ideal, but at least he has a body that can match up with Jokic. And if you want to save Nurk or keep him out of foul trouble and want to give him a little breather, then I think Kanter might be more useful that way than going up against. But I mean, and Stotts did that some in game 2 too. Like he brought Kanter into play against Jokic, didn't have as much against the Green and Millsap minutes. And I mean, looking at the numbers too, I mean, Millsap he just made a lot of mid-range jumpers and hook shots and post-ups, like things that I think Portland ultimately would live with.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting how that all shakes out. I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else.
Oh, you know what? We do have to.
What about A-Rod?
Oh my god! Well, that wasn't even what I was going to bring up, but yeah, let's get into the A-Rod.
Yeah, well, I mean, you go first.
Well, no, because I was going to bring up something you brought up, but it's not basketball related at all. So let's talk about.
Okay,
A-Rod
well, you can bring that up after, but
yeah,
I mean, the A-Rod thing. So, shocker. The contract doesn't have any language about keeping the team in Minnesota, like we all guessed.
It seems like Glenn Taylor just said. I mean, he said in all the different he said this to John Krasinski at The Athletic. He said this to Chris Hine with the Star Tribune. He did interviews with both of them when the sale was first announced, and he was like, "We put it in the contract that they cannot move the team from Minnesota." And then Woj's report today, basically, one of the other minority owners is suing them.
Yes.
And
yes,
apparently there is no language in the contract that says they can't move the team. They believe the lease to get out of the Target Center is $50 million, which, when the two guys buying the team are A-Rod and the former CEO of Walmart, I think they can come up with that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
they can easily do that. And listen, I mean,
where did A-Rod start his career?
Seattle. We've been on this. We've been on the
Who's to say?
The Wolves, Seattle.
I do think they're going to ultimately stay in Minnesota because I think the league wants the expansion money.
Yeah. I don't know though. I mean, yes, obviously they do want the expansion money, but man, 32 teams. Like that's just, you know what I mean? Like it does sound good on paper, and I would be, but
there's
like,
enough talent.
There is enough. I mean, there is. But you know,
I think it's fine. And NFL has 32 teams. NHL now has 32 teams. Baseball is looking at expansion.
That's true. I mean, they are. Yeah, I just don't want it to expand too much more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think 32. I think 32 is the number.
I think 32. Yeah, and also, I mean, with the way that they're building up the G League and the select team, and they're getting all these guys that are like they're getting more and more. I mean, it seems like every day I hear about a kid who's a 5-star recruit who's going to the G League select.
Yeah. The talent is there.
Yeah, and these kids are skipping college now, so it's like they'll basically like have like it'll be like European soccer where like these kids are just going straight to the pros, and you know they're in a farm system or whatever, and they just come up through the system, and that's kind of how it's going to be. So I think it's with 32 teams and a more defined and direct feeder system where guys are getting paid earlier in their career as opposed to the current system where it's all based on college. I think, probably would be better for the league and the product if they are going to expand. I don't know, though. I mean, I would totally see. I mean, the Clippers too. I feel like both of them would be down to move right now. I feel like the vibes are there for both franchises.
Well, Steve Ballmer is building his arena in Inglewood, though. Like that's already happening.
That's true. And he already bought it from James Dolan.
He bought the Forum just to make the lawsuit go away. He paid $400 million in cash
to make a lawsuit go away. Well, dude. Well, then, where do you think the Clippers get it that they can skip steps? I mean, like their owner is a fucking billionaire. Like he doesn't have to fucking play by the rules. Like he literally just like, you know what I mean? Like
I was listening to Bomani and Nick Wright today, and they were talking about the Clippers, and I mean, obviously Nick Wright was hating to see it, being a LeBron stan,
of course.
So there was like that part of it, but Bomani made an interesting point, which is that Steve Ballmer gets thought of as this great owner because the guy that he replaced was literally the worst owner in NBA history. And basically, just because he has this much money and he's willing to spend it doesn't mean he's necessarily like a good owner.
Well, also too, it's like, you know how Bill Simmons has the new owner theory, right? And it's like, well, no one ever says that about Steve Ballmer. No one has ever been like, well, Ballmer, new owner, be wildin'. No one has ever said that about Ballmer.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a consideration that maybe, I mean, yeah, that's definitely, I think, a part of the aspect. But what were you going to say that was not basketball related?
This was something you brought up earlier to me in a text, but we need to shout out to Eric Carle's family.
Oh, big shout out to Eric. Yes, the very hungry caterpillar, a legend, pancakes. That's one that Kelsey was talking to me about today that she really liked.
Just an icon. We lost him and Beverly Cleary in like 2 months.
Man, dude. Bold.
Shout out to their families.
Dude, shout out to their family, man. It sucks. But yeah, shout out to their family, inspirations, and legends. I'm excited.
I also want to address the mixed messaging of the NBA.
Oh yeah, we should definitely talk about this. In this specific
area. That's a point that we have hammered home. I just remembered this.
Okay.
So we talked on the last episode about the Knicks holding a David Guetta concert at halftime to celebrate getting the vaccine.
Uh-huh.
What is the ESPN theme song for the playoffs this year?
Oh, I don't even know.
It is some DJ. It's like some terrible DJ Khaled song from
okay.
like his new album that's like workshopped by A&R or whatever. It's like
I know that the TNT is the new Drake single.
Right, the Drake. Right, that Drake. That's fine, whatever. But like, no, the ESPN one is this DJ Khaled song.
Okay.
That samples the guitar riff from "Layla" by Eric Clapton.
Wow. Wow, NBA, bro.
Are they encouraging people to not get the vaccine?
Wow, dude.
Even though David Guetta is performing?
Wow. Don't even test for the coronavirus if you're going to start using Eric Clapton songs, you know what I mean? Like just vibes. No virus. God.
Shout out to Eric Clapton's family.
Yeah, shout out to Eric Clapton's family, I guess. But man, dude, yeah, this is it was a fun first game. I mean, we're done with all the game 2s, right? We're fully on to game 3 now, which is all the coaches, all the players say it. All the odd number games are the most important ones, because
that is what Terry Stotts said.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, I
tweeted the quote out, and it started some arguments in my mentions that I did not participate in, but that I saw.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a classic conventional coaches thing, and it matters. And also too, I think I think it happens to players too. Like, I mean, we saw across the league. I mean, it was, except for Luka, all the teams that got game 1, on the road, especially, ended up giving it right back. So tomorrow's a big game. I'm expecting. I mean, Jokic is averaging 38 points a game. Him and Dame are just fucking incredible. So I expect both of those guys to go off tomorrow. It's just going to be a question of who's going to join them.
Are they going to call a foul on every other possession in the next game too?
Yeah, dude. The fouls were terrible. And the
Nuggets fans were like complaining about it.
Yeah, everyone was complaining about it because the game took too long. And I mean, obviously, the one that sticks out for Blazer fans is that Campazzo flagrant where Portland was down by 13, trying to.
Where he just fell down when CJ lightly bumped him.
Yeah, and Portland's on offense. They have the ball, and then Campazzo gets the flagrant, and then Denver gets the ball and 2 shots, and it was just like, okay, I guess that's how it's going to go. I mean, Lillard just kept on bringing them to within 8 points, but they could just never get any closer. So I mean, the whole team just has to play better. And, hopefully for Portland, another one of those NBA tropes about the role players playing better at home will also come to fruition for them.
Right. So, again, as always, subscribe wherever you get podcasts, subscribe to the Patreon. And by the way, we alluded to this on a previous episode, but I actually set it up. If you subscribe, there's 2 tiers now to the Patreon. There's the family, which is $3 a month, and you get an extra episode every week. Shout out to the family.
Shout out to the family.
And then there's the Certified Ballers tier, where you pay us $150,000, and you can have any episode of Bulls vs. Blazers you want as an NFT.
Right, which would be amazing, obviously. Who wouldn't want an episode of Bulls vs. Blazers as an NFT?
By the way, I'm completely out of Top Shot now. I got the rest of my money out.
Good for you.
I have $0 in my balance. I'm not going to put any more of my own money into it, so I'm just completely done with Top Shot.
Yeah, no, good for you. I'm probably going to sell all my shit at the end of the season, but
yeah.
I'm just, I have it for posterity reasons. I don't even there's no.
It was a time in our lives.
It was a time in our lives.
Money was made.
Yeah, money was made. Time was spent. I mean,
time was spent in pack drop waiting lines and not getting anything.
Yeah, but also too, not to say that we weren't busy, but also too, it's we did have kind of a lot of time to kill.
Yeah,
being that we were all stuck at home, and I don't really want that for myself in the future. so I think I'm cool on missing Top Shot drops. I mean, it made me feel like a sneakers person. You know what I mean? Like the way that people freak out about sneakers on Twitter and
so they'd always post their sneakers L's.
Yeah, posting their sneakers L's. I mean, in a twist though, I was very happy to see everyone on Blazers Twitter posting their W's about going to the game tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
that's a tremendous energy. Love to see it, and I can't wait to hear everybody tomorrow.
8,000 fans tomorrow, according to Chris McGowan.
Mm-hmm.
It's 40% capacity. Love it.
Oh yeah, it'd be great. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think it's gonna be fun tomorrow. I'm excited to be there. I mean, I even got a little emotional when I went to the Rockets game, with fans, and I was a fucking Rocket. So I think
it was the Rockets. B, there were only 2,000 fans in the building.
Yeah, so tomorrow I think is going to hit different.
Yeah, and it's the playoffs, which means we'll probably get
there'll be a special production. There'll be a new video that they're doing, I'm sure.
I was going to go somewhere with that idea of a new video, but I don't want to get canceled.
Don't do it. Yeah, no. But probably a live performance, though, I'm guessing.
You think?
I think it's in the cards.
I mean, do the Blazers really want to believe that cryptocurrency is the new rock and roll? Is that the whatever? Okay, we're gonna end this episode now. I don't want to get canceled by the group chat. Shout out to the family.